What's going on, guys? It's Fantasy Stock Exchange here, bringing you another episode of our Team Predictor series. Today, got Tom Downey on, chat sports representative, Dallas Cowboys Report. I mean, I'm plugging it because, let's be honest, part of my daily routine watching you. But Tom, you want to plug it yourself? How you doing today?
Doing good. Yeah, it's the Cowboys Report. You guys can check us out. You can make it easier on yourselves. Chatsports.com/Cowboys TV will take you right to it. I'm also on Twitter at WhatGoingDowney. No S in that because Twitter has stupid character limits. So WhatGoingDowney.
Sounds good for sure. Yeah, I'll definitely have you linked in the description of this video, YouTube channel, Twitter, everything. Just everything will be linked. But yeah, today I'm just bringing you on. We're going to kind of go through the beloved Cowboys schedule, go through game by game, kind of what we see in terms of the matchup, what we think is going to happen, win-loss, that sort of thing, typical stuff there.
Cool. Sounds good.
Hit that intro. For sure. So opening it up, we got week 1, visiting the Rams, their home stadium, opening up their new home field. How do you see that game playing out?
I'm not totally sold on the Rams yet, and I guess we don't really know what the crowds will look like for this game. Had it been full crowds, it really would have been more of a split between Cowboys and Rams. I think the Cowboys get that win on the road against LA. I don't trust the Rams offensive line. I know the Cowboys defense is still going to be pretty iffy at that point, but I like the Cowboys in that one.
I agree with you there. Again, I'm also, if you haven't seen me yet, but if you've checked the channel, I'm very bullish on our team in general. I guess you can see a little homer bias in myself. I will say that I'm very on that hype of the team, but I do agree. I do think we get the win there. I like that. Open up 1-0 with Mike McCarthy's tenure.
Okay, I like it.
Transitioning week 2, going back home, Texas.
Yeah, back home will be a nice boost there. I'm not really convinced the Falcons are going to be a very good football team, especially early on, which has been kind of the MO lately for Dan Quinn, where they start off terribly, get hot after the bye week. At home makes me feel even better. I got the Cowboys in that one.
Agree with you there again. With the Falcons, I just kind of see a lot of turnover on their defense, especially their secondary. I mean, we could say the same thing for Dallas, but I do think that we kind of have a little more depth to deal with it. Again, they're relying on what's called AJ Terrell's replacing Desmond Trufant in the offseason. While you can say Trayvon Diggs doing the same for Byron Jones, I really do believe that the Cowboys in general do have the front seven to kind of like make up for it, whereas the Falcons by any means, I just don't think in general they have a defense at all. So that's just my thoughts. Again, I'm also going to pick my team there. Week 3 on the road, Seahawks, Russell Wilson. Tough game. I do think we can win, but what are your thoughts?
Well, I don't really know what kind of home field advantage Seattle will end up having this year, which is a stark contrast to what we've seen in recent years. If this was a home game for the Cowboys, I think I'd change my vote, but I'm going to go with Seattle at home. I think that it'll be a very close game. Those two teams have a tendency to play each other very tight, but I think Seattle and Wilson pull it out.
Agree there. Again, Cowboys, Seahawks, it seems like we almost play them basically every year. Always a tough, gritty game. I mean, we played them in the playoffs a couple years ago. That Dak game, third down, able to convert in the clutch situation. Ultimately, though I do agree, home field advantage here, again, as you mentioned, may not be the same. But if the Cowboys are playing at home, I'd probably give them the edge. But I'll agree to give them the loss here. So week 4, upstart Browns team, the Super Bowl favorite last offseason, according to basically everybody in the media. But how do you have this shaken for week 4?
Yeah, I'm not out on the Browns yet. I still think they're going to be a good football team, but I don't think they're going to be better than the Cowboys this year, especially not going on the road to take on Dallas. So I'm aboard again with you here. Cowboys 3-1 to start the season.
Perfect. Yeah, we're in sync there. That offense got a lot of moving coaching
Mhm.
especially with Kevin Stefanski entering the fold. I mean, we saw what he was able to do with the run game, but ultimately 4 weeks in, we'll see how they transition. But it's definitely going to be a learning experience going basically from the expectations they were last year to ultimately trying to play a really good team, in my opinion, in the Cowboys. I mean, homer or not, on the road early in the season. So I'll agree there for sure. Get that win. Uh, Week 5 is an interesting game because it always seems like the Giants, we either blow them out or it's just a fun game in general. But what are your thoughts here playing the Giants at home for Week 5?
Jason Garrett revenge game is very real. I would be lying if I told you I wasn't concerned about this game as one of those possible early season upsets. I'm still going to go with the Cowboys. I think Saquon will have a nice day, but I don't trust the Jason Garrett led offense right now. So
For sure. Definitely intrigued to see how the Giants offense is going to figure under Jason Garrett. I mean, as Cowboys fans, if we know based on his tenure in Dallas how it's going to look, it's going to be a whole lot of Evan Ingram. It's going to be a whole lot of Saquon Barkley. I mean, we saw how many targets Jason Witten was getting in his prime under Garrett, and getting a guy like Ingram, if he's able to stay healthy, I can definitely see that figuring. But yeah, Cowboys at home, I do think we can get the win, especially if we can get Daniel Jones flustered early. Little ball security issues going on there. So, yeah, very good start so far. I like it.
yeah,
5-1.
yeah,
We'll definitely be chanting on the streets for sure.
yeah.
But week 6, an interesting game against the Cardinals. We're playing them at home. Cliff Kingsbury, exciting young coach. What are your thoughts on this one?
I am a little worried about this too. I think the Cardinals are going to be that new hot young upstart team. Offensively, they're going to be able to put up points. I think Murray might have a big day against a not great Cowboys secondary this season. I also don't trust the Arizona defense, and I think a common theme for the Cowboys this year is, yeah, they're going to score on the Cowboys, but the Cowboys offense should be able to hold their own at minimum. So I'll go Cowboys once again here at home on, I believe, Monday Night Football.
For sure. Again, after we kind of predict through the schedule, we'll just talk about like certain narratives of the team, how you think the team's going to look in general. But judging from the record, I think we can both agree. We're both in the belief that this is a team that can rebound from a disappointing 8-8 season from last year. So speaking of that, going into week 7 on the road against the Redskins, a Redskins team facing a lot of coaching changes. I mean, Ron Rivera, you can see the same thing about Dallas, but really the Redskins were a mess last year. Looking at Ron Rivera coming in, trying to change the culture of that franchise, trying to change the culture of that locker room in general. What are your thoughts on that week 7 tilt?
I don't think the Redskins are very good this year, so I got the Cowboys in a blowout.
I agree with that. Week 8, interesting game. On the road against the Eagles. It always seems like we split with this team. Definitely always a hard game in general, but what are your thoughts on this one?
The Eagles and Cowboys, I think, pretty clearly are going to be the two teams competing for the NFC East this year. And I think, as it's kind of been in recent years, for the most part, it'll be a little bit of a back and forth between which team is better from week to week, year to year, which quarterback is better from game to game. At home, I'll give the Eagles this one, but, that this is a match that's often split. So kind of teaser, spoiler alert there.
Yeah, I'm definitely in the same agreement as far as I do think we would lose this game. Somewhat because I just think neither team's going to sweep the other. I think it's just going to be a split series in general. And given the fact that they're at their home here, at their own home, here in this week 8 tilt, and we're kind of coming off a hot 6-1 start, I think this is definitely a game we could drop. So agreed there. Week 9 is one where I kind of got overruled. The panel of our voters, there's 4 of us. They voted Steelers. I think we can win this one at home, but just want to hear your thoughts on that.
Is Big Ben playing in this game? Because if he is, Steelers win. If he's not, Cowboys win, because that backup quarterback situation is a mess for Pittsburgh. I'm actually more inclined to agree with your panel. I think Pittsburgh ends up winning that one. This will have been 9 straight games for the Cowboys. Yeah, it'll have been at home, but I think Pittsburgh's a little bit better team if their quarterback is healthy. Big if.
Yeah, I mean, if Ben Roethlisberger is healthy, I definitely do think that they have a really good roster. I mean, again, top 5 defense in rankings last year. Young, fresh offensive pieces. Like if James Conner can stay healthy, they got a good run game. Anthony McFarland, nice addition. And in general, that receiving core, James Washington, Chase Claypool, Juju Smith-Schuster, Deontay Johnson. I do see that if pieces are able to stay healthy for the Steelers, I do think they're going to be a good team in general. And especially, I mean, coming off the bye, I guess I can kind of see this one. Maybe it's just a little my homer taking over because I want us to win every single game. But yeah, definitely a fair loss there, week 9. So entering the bye, we got I believe that's a 6-3 record. Solid record overall. I definitely like that. Wait, is that? Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
6-3,
6-3.
perfect. So yeah, week 10 bye, not much to talk about there. So we'll just move past that and go week 11. Little revenge game off the bye against a Vikings team we definitely should have beat last year.
Yeah, if they hadn't tried to force feed Zeke down the stretch in the entirety of that game. If this were a different week, like if this Vikings game was week 12, I think I'd change my answer. But coming off the bye, having that extra prep time, have the Cowboys in what might end up being, I think, a Vegas upset over the Vikings.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. The Vikings are a team that I personally believe, now the pen is a little lower on them, but I personally believe are going to still be a good team. I mean, they still got pieces. Again, like that run game's still going to be good, especially if Dalvin Cook's able to come back. That front seven is still massive. I mean, I ultimately do think on paper the Vikings have a team to be able to make up for maybe some secondary losses, the loss of Stephon Diggs. But I do think the Cowboys, again, little revenge from last year, coming off the bye, like you said, can steal this one on the road. So great, 7-3, we're looking good. Moving into week 12 against, again, the Redskins.
Not good football team. Cowboys win.
Agreed. Now, an actual good football team that we're going to be talking about in week 13 is going on the road against the 14-2 from last year, MVP-led Lamar Jackson, Baltimore Ravens. How do you have this one shaken out?
This one could get a little bit ugly. This is that stretch in the season where the Cowboys play something like 3 games in 18, 19 days, something really compacted because they got that Sunday, then Thanksgiving, then Thursday night football game. At home, I got the Ravens with a pretty heavy win.
Yeah, I definitely agree there, especially coming off the mojo, from the bye week to the Vikings game to, kind of easing up against the Redskins. The Ravens are just going to come on Thursday night, are just going to be motivated. You know what? Cowboys going to have a good record by then. Ravens want to kind of show out from basically what happened last year. I mean, they were a fantastic team that ultimately, big upset in the playoffs against the Titans. So I definitely think they're going to have a little bit of a sort of a revenge tour this year.
Yeah.
I think they're a very talented team. So week 13 on the road against the Ravens. So give it to the Ravens there.
Mm-hmm.
So week 14 against number 1 pick, Joe Burrow and his Cincinnati Bengals. How do you have this one shaken out?
Cowboys should win easily. The Bengals are not there yet. I think they'll be a better team this year, but my entire family's from Cincinnati, so they know I'm right when I say this. Cowboys win.
Again, you mentioned on when we were recording this, the video dropped today on the YouTube channel. A big problem for the Bengals that wasn't even mentioned by Gil Brandt is their offensive line issues.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. I was watching that and I'm just thinking the main piece of confidence that Bengals fans have is at this point Jonah Williams' return, but we haven't even seen him play in the NFL. I mean, we all liked him out of college, but at the same time, like just expecting a guy who hasn't played a snap in the NFL, coming off a big injury that he lost his rookie year, to just step in and just provide stability on that offensive line. It's going to be a major question mark all year.
Yeah, I think Jonah's going to be great, but you still got Bobby Hart at right tackle, and he sucks, so it doesn't really fix your offensive line issues.
For sure. I mean, I think Jonah's going to be good, but it just might be a transition, maybe. But yeah, definitely a good win there, coming off a little hard loss on week 13. So going into week 14, this is definitely a really tough matchup in the NFC. Playing host to the San Francisco 49ers, the NFC representative of the Super Bowl last year. How do you have this one shaken?
I got the Niners. I know that defenses can be a little bit more inconsistent from year to year, but I still think this is going to be a 49ers team that's going to be really good, really effective. I think they'll be able to control the clock. I think they match up fairly well with the Cowboys. So even at home, I got San Francisco in this one.
Yeah, it's definitely fair. I mean, if looking at the matchup specifically, I mean, what they do really well is they're able to grind out the clock. I mean, again, really good time of possession team, second highest in terms of run split behind the Baltimore Ravens last year. I mean, when trusting Kyle Shanahan to run that offense, he's going to make sure that in general they're humming, they're honing. Raheem Mostert, Tevin Coleman. I ultimately think that if the Cowboys at this point, they may have issues in terms of their front seven. I mean, linebacking issues in terms of injury concerns. Like we don't know how Leighton Vander Esch is going to hold up throughout the season. Jalen Smith may be inconsistent. And in general, like I'm not 100% sold yet on how Poe and McCoy are going to end up holding against the run throughout the majority of the season. So, yeah, I mean, facing a tough, hard-nosed team against the Niners is definitely going to be a challenge. So, yeah, I can agree with you there and giving them the loss here. Now, me personally, the homer in me, I might just say, oh, their secondary can't keep up with our receivers. But at the same time, I mean, you could pick and choose matchups all over the place. But ultimately, again, 49ers are a very, very tough team. So giving them the loss here is definitely fair in my opinion. So I agree with you there. Transitioning, we mentioned it earlier, week 16, rematch against week 8. This time we're at home. How do you have that one shaken?
Great question, right? At home, I feel better. I think the Cowboys end up splitting with the Eagles this year. So since I gave the Eagles the earlier home win, I'll go with the Cowboys home win in week 16 and a nice little flip from how things went last season.
For sure. A nice little sweet revenge because at this point, this would give us our 10th win. And judging from these standings, that would ultimately clinch the division anyways. So definitely a nice booster. And then just ending the season, basically playing for playoff seeding. We'd be on the road against the Giants. What are your thoughts on that?
If that is a game that matters for seeding, give me the Cowboys. If it's a meaningless game, maybe the Giants pull out a victory there. In this scenario, I'll assume that there is a seeding factor in here. So I'll go with the Cowboys to win.
I can check right now. I believe. Okay, so they're the 3 seed either way. So whichever way I click it.
Okay, then they will lose.
Okay, perfect. So 10-6. I mean, big improvement off of last season. You know, very disappointing 8-8 considering that the Cowboys were ranked top 10 in both offensive metrics and defensive metrics, basically across the board. Me and you both know the main issue of the team last year was situational coaching and that just horrid special teams. I mean, I don't even know how to describe that last year. What are your thoughts on basically what they're able to do in the offseason in terms of both losses, additions? Like, how do you think the team's shaping compared to last year?
On paper, I don't think they're as good as what they were because of the losses on defense. You lose Quinn, you lose Byron Jones. That's your number 2 pass rusher, your number 1 corner, two of the better players at their positions, at least pass rushing for Quinn, not so much against the run. But I do think you get better in terms of the defensive tackle spot. You bring in Quinn, or McCoy, you bring in Dontari Poe. That's a big time upgrade there. I like the shape the offense is in. Obviously, Frederick is a huge loss. They should be fine. They should be a top 5 offense. Where things will be better for the Cowboys and why I think they'll be a better team in the win-loss column is that, A, coaching staff has to be better this year. Yeah. McCarthy should be better than Garrett. Special teams should not be bottom 3 in the NFL like it was last year. That killed them repeatedly. The defense should force more turnovers under Mike Nolan, at least we hope, although they will give up plenty of big plays without Byron Jones, I believe. And then on top of that, luck plays a bigger factor than we ever really want to admit in the NFL. Cowboys 2018, one of the best teams in one-score games. They went like 8-2, I think. Something unsustainable. This year, 2019, they went like 1-7. So they should have been somewhere in the middle. And even if you go below 500, you go 3-5, you're in the playoffs.
Exactly.
So I think that just regression to the mean from a positive perspective means the Cowboys should at least be contending once again. And I think 10.5 is a really good over-under total for them.
I definitely agree with you on basically all those aspects in the sense that you mentioned that that bottom 3 special teams unit. Like, you don't usually see a special teams ranked bottom 3 in basically every single metrics in terms of punt return yardage, in terms of kickoff return yardage, in terms of like basically everything, like field goal accuracy, like I don't know, like basically everything else. But not to mention, I mean, the inconsistency with Brett Maher. Hopefully that's improved under Greg Zuerlein. John Fossil, nice special teams coordinator. I think that's an upgrade. And in general, you mentioned Mike Nolan coming into the defense. I kind of want to ask you, what are your thoughts on just the scheme issues from last year? Basically, maybe how they're going to be upgraded this year. Because watching the games last year, it just seemed like they were sitting back Tampa 2, letting teams carve them out basically every week.
Yeah, the defensive scheme was not one that hid anything. It was, hey, you know what, we're going to come out in cover 3. We're going to play off coverage on 3rd and 4, and you're going to beat us. And it was a classic bend but don't break option. So I didn't like it. It was way too passive. It wasn't aggressive. It wasn't creative, which is something we've said about the offense for a long time. So I think that's going to be fixed under Mike Nolan. I think the inconsistency is going to be in the just you'll make some plays, you'll give up more plays because your secondary is not as talented without Byron Jones. But if you can force more turnovers along the way, you'll feel better about that.
Agree. I mean, we're basically touching upon everything. Basically both in agreement in the sense that we're optimistic that the Cowboys will be better from an overall record standpoint. In terms of, again, you mentioned positive regression in terms of one-score games, coaching staff upgrades, and in general, I mean, that offense, and I believe, maybe outside of the Chiefs and I don't know, I can't even name another team. Maybe like the Bucks, Saints, like those are. It's clearly an elite unit in general. So, yeah, definitely optimistic about the season. Is there any other thoughts you have on the team before we just kind of wrap it up? Or
no, I think that's pretty much everything. Got to get that special teams unit better.
Perfect. Well, I'll definitely keep updated with you throughout the season. Hopefully there is one. Again, COVID-19.
Yeah.
It's very, very scary in terms of the overall outlook on the season, but we're a fantasy channel over here. But again, when I have the chance to talk about football, I have the chance to talk about my Dallas Cowboys, maybe hype them up for a season. I take that chance and run with it. So appreciate having you on, Tom. You know, definitely became a good friend of mine over Twitter. Play some Warzone with you. You know,
yes.
Good times. Get that running again soon. But aside from that, we'll close off. Have you in the description, and thanks for having you.
I appreciate it, Daniel.
All right, anytime. Peace out.